Good afternoon, everyone, and wishing you a very warm welcome to the webinar on Designing Future, how to choose a design college. Thank you so much for making time to attend this webinar. I represent the University of Petroleum and Energy Studies, UPES, which is one of the best universities in northern India. It is situated in a very scenic part of the country in Dehradun with a backdrop of mountains and forests. Very ideal and very idyllic for creative education, I must say. And I'm Manisha Mohan. I'm the Dean for School of Design. And I would like to, first of all, introduce my co-panelists over here. There is Elise Bartholomew, who is, she's joining all the way from Netherlands. And she is the Chief Play Officer, the CPO of Alice in Wonderland, and a very successful game designer, also on our advisory board for School of Design. And there's Mr. Satish Gokhale, who is the founder and director of Design Directions. He's one of the most successful designers in the country, and he has many patents to his name. And we are also very proud to have him as an alumni of NID, and NID is the institute which I come from. So before we get started, I'd like Alice as well as Satish to talk a little bit about themselves and their journey as designers. Alice, over to you.
Okay, thank you. Well, I studied the product design in Eindhoven at the Design Academy a long time ago. In that time, we even hardly had computers in school, but we were, the first 2 years were very much about learning all materials and creating stuff and making things, furniture, making graphic design, making art, plastics, ceramics, everything. And I really love to have that tangibility of products. But I also love to see that since those 25 years ago, that product design is not about a product anymore, but it's more about the usage of a product. And my school already had the name of using the word man and transport, man and living, man and information. So it was human in that sense. How does a human interact with a product? And that's what I still am doing. I started doing graphic design, web design, interaction design, and then I developed games, educational games, to see how can we motivate someone to learn more, learn better, but also become owner of his own learning path. And that's what I like very much about games and play, that you can trigger motivation with someone. So in my opinion, games are like service systems for people to interact inside. So the complexity of my journey in design, I never thought that psychology and positive psychology and all those topics came into place. But I think it's very interesting to be curious as a designer and have the opportunity to find solutions to problems. And that's how I became a game designer, and I think forever and how do you say, researcher on that topic. I want to find out how to know more about life and how we can design tools and skills for people to progress and learn. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alice. Actually, the multidisciplinary aspect of design is so very important, and Alice did touch upon it. At UPES School of Design, one of the advantages that we have is that we are set in the backdrop of an engineering school, a school of computer science, as well as law, health sciences, and modern media, and the School of Agriculture coming up. So we have the benefit as designers of working on cross-disciplinary projects, and which are well researched, as well as meeting the needs of the market, and that's how we build our graduates. So over to you, Satish. Please could you talk a little bit about your journey as a designer?
Sure. Thank you, Manisha. So good afternoon and welcome everyone on this webinar. So I started my career way back in 1984 with a company called Bajaj Auto. I'm sure everyone in India has heard of Bajaj Auto, the three-wheeler manufacturer auto rickshaw. So I set up their R&D styling studio in 84 with a very clear understanding that 88 is when I want to start on my own. One of the reasons I think is also what Manisha just mentioned, multidisciplinary. We believe in cross-pollinating between different fields, different domains of science. It could be sociology, psychology, economics. I believe that as a company, we believe that today all the boundaries are dissolving. There's nothing like industrial design, communication design. That's what we studied as independent silos, but things are overlapping now. You can't say I don't know graphic design. If I'm an industrial designer, I will have to have the basics and the hands-on some experience about graphic design, user interface, sociology, psychology, economics, market research. So 88 is when I started on my own. One of the main reasons why I didn't want to stick to one particular domain, which was automotive, is as a designer, it's very important to, you can actually touch base on several projects and products. And how do you cross-pollinate your education or your knowledge about automotive into a medical product is what we try and do. So I think in the last 35 plus years, I think we've completed over 600, 700 plus products. And most of them, we try and use basic 6 and 7 standard physics. And you'll be amazed that, basic sciences don't change, but how do you apply them is very important. And in design, this can actually help a lot. I mean, we've designed products which are world's best and using 6 and 7 standard physics. I personally believe that you should, as any design student, you should have a basic liking for science. Also, I also believe that you should be more inquisitive about, and you want to be learning constantly. So today, even today, after 35 years, I'm still a student, and we are always hungry for new materials, new processes, and that's how we are continuing our journey, and hopefully we'll continue the same for a few more years. Yeah, that's about it.
That's wonderful, Satish. And actually, because UPS is a university with a purpose, and for us, everything that we do has to make a difference to the end user. It has to have meaning for somebody. It's not just about aesthetics, but it's actually something that will be value creation or make a difference to somebody at the end of the whole journey. And that's how we train our design graduates. And so going from here, Alice, can you talk a little bit about the design trends that are impacting the industry today, and especially in the international forum?
Yeah, that's not a small question to answer. But indeed, what I see is that design thinking is becoming a very much used practice in agile development, but also in startups, that they try to the sentence of fail fast, fail cheap, and fail early. No, fail cheap and fail. But those terms of if you want to start a startup, you have to test your assumptions, and all these methods are derived from design research. So design became a tool in general in business life for other people also to use these methods. So that's one thing that I noticed very much, that design thinking when I started doing design, they always thought that I was making things only look beautiful. So we would come in the end of the line of a product development, making things look nice. That was the assumption that they had at that time, what design meant. But now design really became known as being at the first part of the journey, being very important to dissect what are we trying to achieve, how can we incorporate all stakeholders and everyone involved, not only business stakeholders, but the complexity of framing the circumstances of a solution and a problem, and using design in that as a big tool, but also as a method of thinking in that way. And I'm also involved in solving wicked problems. like looking at the future and how can we predict the future in more different ways. And we're using design and game design to use these methods of how can we be ahead of the game.
Wonderful. Yes, design is entering a lot of non-design sounding domains like banking, like healthcare, travel and logistics, and different types of education. So it is really in every possible vertical where designers are making a difference at a strategic level or at a level where they are dealing with customers and trying to meet customer expectations, and it's making a difference at a grassroots level. That's why a connect with the industry is always so important. And we try to do that in UPS, where we constantly expose our design graduates as well as our design students to different companies where they work hands-on on live projects and get an exposure to what is possible. So the industry connect is definitely something we're proud of, as well as bringing the industry to campus. So we have senior designers, design heads from different companies talking to our students at every stage and teaching them the skills of the trade. And over to you, Satish. What do you think are the main design trends that are impacting the industry today?
So I'm just extending what Ellis has mentioned. I think design thinking is going to be important. Though we've learned it, and it was not called design thinking in those days. But now it's entering each. You can design a business. I think that's something which is now something new. Uh, a lot of designers are also getting into forecasting. What are the new technologies which are going to come 10 years down the line? It is very, very imperative and important that we, get into this habit of forecasting, because by the time your product is done, it's already, old technology then. So I think that's a designer skill now to start forecasting. And I mean, for example, we started projects which we're going to launch in 2030. The work has started now. And designers started commanding respect within the whole gamut from top down till the worker level as well. Now they've understood the importance of design. Earlier, they used to think we do only just the detailing and the aesthetics part, as Alice also mentioned. But now I think design has started commanding respect, and designers indirectly. Yeah.
That's really wonderful to hear. And Alice, at least if you look at Netherlands and Europe, where do you feel designers fit in? What are the kind of jobs that designers do? What are the industries they work in? What are the roles they play?
Yeah, there's actually a big variety. Also, when I look back at all the students I had, all my classmates back then, what they are doing now is very different than what they studied for. But I think design is a very agile or moldable role. So people are indeed strategizing, doing marketing instead of building furniture. What was their ambition at that time. So everyone found a place that fits them very well. And I think that that's also one of the good things that the study was very multidisciplinary indeed. And I feel that we are taught to solve problems in a way too. And indeed, what Satish was saying, that we gain some respect as designers or as a profession, because we are indeed always looking at alternatives. What if we do it like this? What if we turn it upside down? Can we make a change happen there? So that, I think those are the roles that I can see designers have. And in Holland, we have the luxury, I think we have the luxury, there are people who are designing food. And they are trying not to just design dishes like a chef cook is doing, because a chef cook is also a designer in a way, but they are looking at food in a holistic way, also looking at how is it being produced, what is the whole chain, how can we make the whole chain more effective and less waste being created. Also the transport of food, but also how is the food being experienced, and should we redesign maybe the future of eating. So I think that's those things are so great, and those professions exist, and I see those people talk on television, and I feel always like, wow, so design is designing itself as well.
Right. That's really interesting. Yes, and I think design innovation lies somewhere in between. It's like in between the cusp of what customers want and what is actually producible, because you have to make the magic happen in between and then go beyond, and then sometimes show them things that they didn't even know that they wanted. So, Satish, what's your view on this?
Uh, so basically, I personally believe design is very different in India than anywhere in the world. I think our problems are, we've got too many problems, and a variety is crazy. I believe that in India we design to fulfill a need, whereas the rest of the world actually creates a need and creates a want. I think that's a major difference, that we are always struggling to meet the hands together and see that we are solving problems. I think that's so. Even I mean, if I have to say it, even today 60% of our work is to fulfill a need and solve problems, and 40% of the work is something which is radically different and which is for the world. Things are going to change now, and especially after this COVID, I think. So let's see.
Okay. So it seems like design has so many different manifestations and avatars, and there's so many possibilities for a designer. But when we break it down for aspiring students and perhaps the parents who've joined in to this dialogue, it would be nice if we could dwell upon what are the skills a designer needs or a potential designer needs. So if I am a design aspirant, what are the skill sets I should come with? So, Alice, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, for me, it's have a curious mindset. So never take anything for granted, but continue to question. Like, so what if I turn it upside down? What happens if I do it like this? And but it's to make sure that you have a wide set of choices to pick from, and then go on with that choice and think like, okay, I'll make this choice now for my design, but keep in mind your wide variety. And then with the next step, you will look back like, okay, I have this palette of this range of choices to make another time again. So keep curious about making decisions, but then also indeed making the decision for the next step. So you shouldn't use it as an excuse like, I cannot choose between all these options, like should I paint this red or blue? Just make it blue, but know that it could have been red as well, and keep holding on to all those curiosity sets and making decisions and all these options. I think being able to juggle in between that is the perfect mindset for a designer.
Yeah, very well put. Yeah.
Very, very well put indeed. And Satish, what do you feel?
Yeah, so I think the first and foremost thing which I would see an attribute is a willingness to learn, the hunger to learn, and also an ability to identify problems. I think as designers, the most important part, I would say 90% of the work is identifying the problem. Once you've identified the problem, and that comes naturally. And I think in a way you can also be taught how to identify problems. There is a process. It's a design process to identify a problem. Once that is done, I think that is the most important part. And secondly, and in today's day and age, I think adapting to new technologies. I mean, you can't say I'm not on Facebook, I'm not on, I don't like smart tech. The world is moving very rapidly, and the ability to adapt and get into the rut also is going to be important, because I think technology is here to stay, and technology is moving and increasing very rapidly. So designers will have to adapt themselves. Any young designers.
Absolutely, very well put. And at UPS School of Design, one of the important things that we do as a part of our strategy as well as vision is that we want to keep ourselves an institute that is technology driven. We are designers that love technology in terms of the way we create work, the way we create our prototypes, or the way we visualize, and also in the way we look at technology and the future of technology and where it's going and how to harness it in our design. So we do feel that this is very, very important for our students to build as an attitude and a mindset. And Satish, you also talked about the ability to learn, which is very, very important. And strangely, at UPS School of Design, in the first year, we sort of make students unlearn. We try
Yeah,
to
very
open
important.
their minds up a little bit and forget what they've learned, because sometimes learning is quite regimental in schools and there is a lot of rote learning, but then you have to open up your minds and learn that you can question at every stage, and it is very important to really be a successful designer if you ask the right questions.
Can I say a line in between? I think in school, in our schooling in India, we were not allowed to question, if you remember. I think, and as designers, the most important part of a profession is to question. Unless you question, you'll not know what the real needs are. And I think that is, yes, I definitely understand that that's a very strong point of UPS also. You teach people to question. I think that's important.
Absolutely.
I would also like to respond to that. When I visited Deadrun and the UPS school, I saw it also for India in general. What I saw in this little time I was there, that indeed it's very different than design in Holland or Europe, because I think here we are solution driven, and I think design should be much more about problem. To drive to frame the answer right is halfway the solution. My heart started beating in over there, because there are so many problems in your that as a designer you can't help but feeling like, oh, I want to solve this and this. I loved so much as I learned the word jugat. Is that the word? Jugat. That it's then you find a solution to something because it's so urgent that you cannot help, and then it might be a clumsy solution, which you see a lot on the streets in India, but it is one, and that made me so excited about being linked to the UPS University and the School of Design. And also, when I was in Deadrun, I visited the Institute of the Forest or the Trees, and there are many institutes there. And I thought Deadrun has so much opportunity to look at world issues, because they are all gathered there with the Himalaya there, and all the spaces come together in that location. And I thought it's such a great test bed for the world to solve problems, and I think it's really the location to really learn design, but also learn the future.
Absolutely. Annelies, you brought up a very important point. At UPS School of Design, we look at mountains not just as a pretty backdrop, but also a ground for us to make a difference, to solve mountain problems like rapid migration, as well as the waste management, and look at making them more green, etc. So these are challenges that we put to our design students, and they work on projects and research around these areas. And this is a world problem that we have decided to take up very seriously and solve as a research area as well as an area for problem solving. A lot of students have this dilemma, and they ask this question whenever we engage with students. Especially the ones who are trying to sort of make up their minds on whether I should be a product designer or a game designer or a fashion designer, because Design as a whole is a very important profession, and there is problem solving involved, etc. But then ultimately, most design schools do make you choose. So how do you know, for instance, Alice, how did you know that you are a game designer, and what would you recommend for aspiring students? How do they choose?
How do, well, during my study, we had these 7 directions of man and information man and transport man and living man and work. So there were 7, and I information, and all my schoolmates chose one of the other 6, and they all told me, Alice, you choose the most boring one. Man and information is so boring. And I was really, I thought like, well, how can they say that? Because I think it's most interesting. At that time, I also wanted to design signage, how to direct people where to go. And I thought it was the most interesting one, but it was being judged as graphic design, old-fashioned. And but with this information, I am into system thinking now with computers and technology. We're designing apps, and I think I chose the best study ever. However, many of those other students, they managed to go into this direction as well. So it's more, you get the skills as a designer, and you don't need to be too worried about which direction you choose. Because you can always use that skill set of designing. There are just basic skill sets you can always divert to another direction. But game design was also just actually sort of a coincidence that we are creating a website, and our client said, can you engage our audience a bit more with the content we deliver? And then we came up with the idea of designing a game. And serious game, the word didn't exist in 1999. And that came, but however, games have been developed before that time. And I think Pac-Man is a very serious game in a way. So, because you learn a lot in there. So it all just came together, and either I'm lucky or I chose that direction. But I'm more and more confident that things will come to your path, and you make a choice, just as I described earlier. Be aware of your choices and make one, and always keep them in mind, like what did I leave behind? Because you do bring those options with you all the time.
Thank you so much. And Satish, what do you feel?
So, interestingly, I had applied to NID way back in late 70s, I think 78, and thinking I would do graphic design, visual communication. I didn't know what industrial design was, frankly, in those days. But I think the foundation program at NID actually exposed us to materials, machines. You know, it was very exciting to, during the basic material course, to create a flower vase or, you know, turn a wooden bowl. And that got me excited into materials, machines. And I think then I actually went ahead and did industrial design. Obviously, the faculties also recommended which, you know, stream of design one should take. And luckily, they all said you should do industrial design. So there I was. And I'm not regretting it at all now. But it was interesting. So we got exposure to graphic design, ceramics, textiles. I think that's really cool. Like also UPS, it makes a lot of difference, I think.
Thank you. And yes, my journey has been also kind of parallel, if not similar. I also sort of specialized in graphic design, interactive design, and e-learning, as well as running a 3D animation studio, and also worked with AR, VR, and serious gaming, as Ellis put it. So a designer has many, many opportunities. You just have to be open, and you should have the ability to learn, take risks, and take in technology, take in the changes, and adapt. In UPS, in the first year, when students join, they are supposed to choose a discipline. So they can take either industrial design or transportation design, interaction design, gaming, graphic design, animation, fashion, And so see, these are, they are also listed on our website. So you can choose in the first year, but if by the end of the first year you feel that you're not very happy with this choice, you want to make a change, along with your faculty, I mean, we guide you really in making a considered choice, and then you specialize in the second year. And even in the second year, there are electives, second year, third year, fourth year, there are always electives. So you can experiment with other courses. You can work on multidisciplinary programs and projects. So you really become a more holistic designer. It doesn't have to be rigid. Boundaries shouldn't be there. For instance, we have a student who's an animation student who's working in our fashion lab most of the time and working on a film out of fabric. So these are the possibilities that you could sort of experiment with over here. And okay, so another question. This is more about education, and a lot of students who are aspiring students for UPS and other design schools, they do ask, do you have to have a bachelor's in design to do a master's in design? And also, is master's important or not? So I just thought I'd get a view from both of you.
Well, to start, what you explained just now, I feel made me feel jealous. I wish I was a student again. So to do all these experiments, and that would be so great. But okay, that my time is left for that. Actually, I'm still a bachelor student. I didn't do a master. In our times, design was not possible. Actually, it was, but it was very technical design. So I'm sort of art school, no master. Now they are there. I'm teaching at master's education, and I like it a lot because it is a bit more the scientific method of doing research and creating hypotheses and doing tests and experiments. That is a very good skill to have as a designer. So it's a little bit a level up. So I think it is important. I also did start a PhD several years ago without having a master, which is quite impossible. But they allowed me. They invited me to do this this research on the motivation of game elements because of my great wide experience. And I learned a lot, but I do realize that I missed having a master. I missed the research methodology. I missed out on that. I learned it now by do-it-yourself research, because I also quit my PhD because the academic level of research was not familiar to me yet then. But now I am a big fan of the academic approach of products, of designing, but also researching stuff.
Right. Thank you so much. And Satish, what's your view on this? Is masters important?
I have a very different view. So I've done my 5.5 years diploma, right? Same as you, Manisha. So I really don't believe in diploma, degree, or PhD or masters. As long as your portfolio is good, as long as you're willing to learn, as long as you're conscious about what you're going to create, I think that is more important than diploma, degree, masters, or PhD. Very frankly, I mean today. Let's say one of your master's student, actually he who's joined us now, he heads our design program in our company. So he's done his master's, he also have a PhD student, but he's the head now. I don't believe in degree, diploma, or master's hierarchy, but in industry, unfortunately, that matters. In a design company, I mean, we are more flexible. Unfortunately, it has to be part of the system. So yes, if somebody is interested, they can do the masters, and that's about it. Yeah. So for me, the ability to churn out work and good work is more important, and meaningful work.
So I think Satish, you've said what any design head would say, because design heads always do want somebody who is strong in terms of their work, in terms of their attitude, in terms of their ability to question and learn. But as you said, for companies, and especially the HR, and there are always certain rules. So that's why master's education does help in getting sometimes a better salary in an organization or a better position in an organization. And in UPS, we have undergraduate and postgraduate courses. We also have PhD. And the sort of postgraduate students, I mean, if you want to do a post-graduation after being an undergraduate student in UPS, you get a 35% rebate on your fees. So we encourage our own alumni to also come back and do their masters over here. And that also applies to some of our law students who want to do design, or some of our engineering students who want to do design or cross-disciplinary, etc. So, and we do encourage that. And so another sort of question is that there are a lot of design colleges in India, and many students ask, how do you choose? How do you really choose a college? What do you look for in a design college? And I see that coming from the parents as well as the students. But I thought I'd take your views on what parameters one should look for. Alice, do you have any thoughts on how you can choose a design college?
It's quite a difficult question because here in Holland we have sort of like art schools and design schools and more engineering universities doing design. So the variety is very much in actually also the topic we were addressing just now, becoming a bachelor or doing a master. That also in our schools that starts. You start with that choice almost already. Like, are you going for the high level or just become a more hands-on practitioner? So the education in Holland is a bit different, but I would say look for the university that has as much as possible multidisciplinarity in there, so you can find your way better. You don't have to choose in day one to become. Don't think of the end of your horizon dot too much, but start your journey with curiosity and learning. So I think that would be a very important choice. But I don't know enough about the opportunities in India about design schools, how to look for that.
I've just made some points. I personally believe, how do you choose a college? One is, I think all colleges get excellent students. It's having the right faculty. I think UPS has a very good faculty. Also having a faculty-student ratio. You know, these are very Indian problems, Alice. Faculty to student ratio is very important. Then how many industry experts or mentors does the university have is also important. Besides the right and the conducive infrastructure. And also, you know, the history of your placements. And lastly is also the location, and Dehradun, your campus is just beautiful, UPS campus. You know, you can breathe air in Dehradun. I think and that actually is very conducive for design and design thinking.
Thank you.
Very good point.
Having good faculty is primary, I would say. All design colleges get good students. It's the faculty which molds them in place. I think that's important.
Thank you so much, Satish. In fact, yes, we do have faculty from some of the top design institutes in India, and also a few from Italy, because they've done their post-graduation in IED and other places. And here our faculty are from NID, from MIT Pune, as well as from the IITs. So I think we've got the best talent who's actually teaching the students. That's a great advantage. And we have a wonderful advisory board. Some of our members are right in front of you over here, and a strong industry connect. So these are important factors for us.
I'll also add one more thing. I think, Manisha, your industry experience also is very important.
Yeah.
25 years of industry experience working with the Tata Group gets a very different perspective as a deal.
So actually, I'm learning to be an academic. I'll be honest to all of you, because I've spent my entire life, as Satish said, in the industry, working with real design problems. and with design teams and mentoring a lot of young students and interns. So that definitely makes me, I would say a very privileged person because of this journey. I love sort of working with students over here. So just another, maybe a last question from my side, because we want to also open it out to questions from all those who are patiently attending our session. So with COVID-19 happening, we know that the reality is that most of us are working from home. In fact, I'm not in my beautiful campus right now, but I'm sort of speaking from my house. And design education also has to be done from home and at a distance. So, what are your views on sort of distance learning or online learning for design? And does it work? What are your thoughts on it, Alice?
I think it's interesting, and we should use it as a tool. Just like, because I already have been looking at the Q&A, and people are asking, they are worried about the unsecure future of technology running behind us or catching up with us. And I do think that we are still in control of technology as a designer, but also as a society, how we can use it. And I think it's amazingly interesting to see here in Holland how online education has been how do you say, grown 85% within 1 week, because there was an urgency there and we had no choice. But all these teachers had to go online and digital, which they didn't like before. It was available, but they didn't want it. So they were resisting technology development. And now they were adapting to it because there was a reason for it. And I think in that sense, I really trust that we as a designer, but also as a society, we will take it in our hands to use it for the better when it is needed. And I also trust this situation that we will find ways. I am doing a lot of, how do you say, brainstorm sessions even with clients online, because we do need to proceed and we cannot make decisions without these brainstorm sessions. But it's not easy, it's a challenge. I do think face-to-face contact for design is important, or person-to-person contact, to talk about what is your design and to really discuss designs. But I also think that the opportunity of online courses, making knowledge available to a wider audience, it's really, we have to juggle in between the opportunities that are there and the challenges that are there.
Right. No, I completely agree with you on that. And Satish, what's your view on online?
I think it's the same answer as what Alice has already given. No point extending it further. But yes, we'll have to adapt to online learning. There is no option, because you never know what's going to happen tomorrow. So it's always better to be prepared and get into the rut of adapting.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I mean, you can always teach in a college, but you can always learn online. So I think it's possible. I'm also on webinars, and a lot of our meetings are online nowadays. Though I'm sitting in my office, unfortunately, but yeah.
So I feel blessed because I've actually spent almost a couple of decades of my life in e-learning and as a practicing e-learning designer. So it's suddenly a time to use my skills in e-learning. But not only me, I think UPS actually rose to the occasion very, very quickly, because as soon as the problems hit, we immediately migrated our faculty to teaching online on Blackboard. And it was amazing to see the courage that all the faculty showed in, with the limited technology that they had available at that point, to actually, and it happened within a week. So all our classes, actually 100% of our classes in design education, including ergonomics and fashion studies and evolution of fashion and God knows, so many courses are actually being taught online. We are not compromising on the quality of learning. And we also have master classes. In fact, we had a master class from somebody in Ferrari in Munich yesterday. Opens up possibilities that were never there before. It's not always easy to get somebody down from Munich at such a short notice, but yes, you can bring them up in a Zoom call or a webinar. And very importantly, we have a tie-up with Coursera, which gives us access to 3,800 courses and a huge volume of courses for students in varied subjects from interaction design to design anthropology and various other areas. Of course, I'm talking only about design, but there's a wide range of topics available. And the tie-up with Coursera really helps for our students to get access to top faculty across the world, as well as certification from them. And this really helped us at this point. So I think this is broadly that what we wanted to say. If there is any last words from Alice and Satish, anything that you want to tell the aspiring students and parents who logged in?
Well, I see many questions. They are very interesting. So let's dive in there.
Okay,
look at the Q&As.
Okay, so we haven't really reached there yet.
Can I be so bold to take up one?
Yes, please go ahead.
There was one saying, will artificial intelligence replace designers in the future? And I think that's a funny one, but I know this topic is being discussed a lot. But I do think that artificial intelligence is becoming a tool, like material for us, and it will not be a replacement of us. So I don't worry about it, but and there is actually a great talk done by a game designer who's really showing what artificial intelligence can do and is doing in recent years, and how he's really in a very positive manner talking about how it is helping us advance in our development of things. So I'm later, Manisha. I'm not sure how we can share this with everyone, but it's very interesting. So no, I don't think we will be automized as a profession.
The mundane and mediocre and the boring stuff. I think it's like computers, the man behind the computers is important. So designers, you can't replace design with AI.
It's not easy to replace a creative profession with automation. And anything that is repeatable can be automated, but something that is creative like design, it is very difficult. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, and there's a good example of a game design Folded, which is now also being developed for Corona, and it's citizen science. Is making people play a puzzle to create new proteins, because they found out that the creativity of a human mind is still better than the computer. So by a lot of people creating these puzzles, also creating DNA models, they are teaching the computer to become better, but they have found out that the creativity mindset of people or human brains are still different than computer brains. But it's nice. This game Folded is now also being developed to solve the Corona issue, to have a lot of people play a game to build on these models, which I think is also very interesting to look at the articles written about it. And they are creating labs with human brain playing games in that sense.
So there is also one question which says, is engineering important for design? Industrial design. I just saw it somewhere. Manisha, do you want to lead and ask?
No, actually so I would have given you that question, Satish. So please answer it.
I believe if you want to do industrial design, it's nice to have a liking for engineering. I'm not saying you have to be a perfect engineer there, but just the ability to, start talking to, let's say, a mechanical engineer or an electronics engineer or a structural designer. So you have to speak his language to a certain extent. So the engineer starts opening up. So it's important that you have to have a liking for engineering or sciences. if you have to do industrial design, is what I would recommend.
And there's a related question, Satish, that maybe if you could take up also. So how can a student in commerce become an automobile designer? Is that a possibility, and does it make sense?
Yeah, it all depends on the personal skill sets, I think. I mean, I've had a he did his bachelor's in history, then did his master's in industrial design. He was excellent. So it all depends on the individual. But again, coming back, even in automotive, there are principles of automotive design. You can't have a round car, for example. I mean, most portfolios, what you see is wrapped around glass, which can't be produced. So these basic fundamental knowledge of manufacturing processes, material science. So whether you're an art student, commerce student, as long as you have it in you to, decipher what can be done, what can't be done, you can go ahead with automotive design as well. It's all personal liking, I would say, and your ability to learn and grasp things.
Thank you. And there's a question on fashion design here. We do have a fashion design course, which is like we have bachelor's as well as master's in fashion design, and our students learn pattern making, draping, the evolution of fashion, visual culture, as in how fashion has changed over the years in a country like India, from the ancient clothes, saris, and how they evolved, as well as the impact on some of the latest sort of designs that are out there, the latest collections out there, as well as the business of fashion, so the merchandising side, as well as how to run your own startup or your own company. A lot of fashion designers actually become entrepreneurs and set up their own units, or they are sort of work along with a fashion factory, etc. So we prepare them for the business skills that are required, and we have a strong orientation towards technology. So we look at also how technologies like 3D printing, laser cutting, sort of impact fashion in terms of the fashion accessories that you can build, as well as VR, virtual reality, in terms of presenting your fashion collection, etc., and really, doing fashion shows, testing out your designs, etc. And most importantly, sustainable fashion. So we really look at how the whole fashion production cycle can be more sustainable, more green, and we teach our students to be sensitive towards this. And this is a differentiator for some of the top fashion brands worldwide. And that's what they do look for also. There is another question in terms of what preference would you give to software and technology? So, Alice, would you like to take this up in terms of how important knowledge for a designer?
Well, actually, as I said, when I studied, there was almost no computer. And when the computers came in for desktop publishing, then my teacher was using the manual, and I helped him learn how to use the computer and the software because he was just a learner as I was. But and then when I started doing websites, I was actually finished with my studies, but we learned how to do HTML at that time. And then I learned dynamic HTML and JavaScript, just because it is similar as when you are a fashion designer, that you want to know what is wool and what is cotton. You want to feel what you're creating, and you want to find out the material. So for me, I wanted to understand at least the technology, but I never became a programmer in that sense. But I have always been made myself familiar in coding to learn how to design websites. So, but there are many designers who only use Illustrator and Photoshop to design websites. They have a team behind, and they have to communicate with the team, because it's always a bit of a give and take. Like, it's your turn to finish the product. What is my skills and what are yours? And I think if you know each other's skills a little bit, or understand at least the fabric behind it, then that is enough. You don't have to become a hardcore coder to design websites. So that you need to have the team communication set up well. That's actually the learning to work in teams might be one of the skills we overlooked when we were mentioning that, but that's also very how to communicate why you design, what you made and create, and how the other one is going to follow up on that.
Right. That is
I'll also quickly add. So I'm going to be speaking purely from industrial design. I think it's important. See, I think the most important, the idea we still, even today, use a pencil and a paper. The sketching part is very important. And computers is basically a tool to speeden up your, how do you take your idea to the market is when the computer comes in. Because we, end of the day, have to give part drawings for manufacture. So the minute you have computers, you know what are your tolerances, what are your draft angles, what are your shrinkage. We also use softwares to do a lot of structural analysis, fluid dynamics of, CFD is what we also do structural analysis of a particular part where we do FE analysis and things like that. So computers, we use purely as a tool, but it's important. Today, being a designer not using computers would be very serious mistake, I would say. But it's not that we rely only on computers. Your ideation still happens on a pencil and a paper.
Yeah, and very good. And to add to that, I saw the question before, if you have to be good at drawing. And actually, that's not, you don't have to be good at drawing, but you have to, during your studies, you will develop, how you say, handwriting in making drawings and sketches. So it is important to have some affinity and do like it, but you don't have to be good at it. You will learn it by doing anyway. And I think really everyone can draw. Everyone can learn to draw. It's just a matter of making a lot of drawings to communicate.
I never drew anything before I joined NID, incidentally. So, one can learn how to draw. And I think drawing, a mode of drawing or medium of drawing is our biggest tool, designer's tool.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So drawing really helps for designers better and to express their ideas. There is a question here, how does my background in animation and VFX, how will it help in design? So this is a question I'll take because I'm an animator. I think a knowledge of animation teaches you principles of storytelling, and you're able to tell stories well, you're able to reach out to users and sort of make a successful story that they can take on with. And storytelling is also very important in design. You should be able to convey what the benefits of your product very well. And sometimes you have to visualize what your product will look like or how it will behave in the future. And for that, sometimes you have to tell a story and build towards it. And yes, a software knowledge also does help because many of the colleges, sort of institutes where you're learning animation and VFX are teaching you 3D skills as well as 2D skills and also softwares like Maya and Max, etc. So that ability to visualize in 3D is also important. Whether you end up doing, you may not take animation further, you may become a product designer, but you will be successful in visualizing in 3D. So that would also help. So it is always a benefit. Any additional knowledge you have would be useful for us. And so any other questions? Maybe I'll have to choose some questions and make sure that we answer the question. We can also find a way of answering them. Yes, Alice, you want to pick a question?
I found
yes.
Krishna Gilda asked a question to Mr. Satish. Given the situation that has arisen due to COVID-19 and the health of economy that will follow the epidemic, do you think industry will invest more in design solution? And will we see a reduced investment in new product development? What would then be the future of Indian design industry?
Interesting question.
Yeah.
In fact, the whole, the kind of projects which would come to in our basket would change now. It'll be related. I would say right now we are fighting against a pandemic, but eventually we'll have to design products as prevention. Right now we're fighting. I think how do you create products which will avoid such things? I mean, just as an example, can you have just a button which actually keeps the viruses away. I don't know. This design thinking, this is material science, this is cloud thinking. There's a lot of technology which could get involved. Who knows? Or could there be a soap which keeps the viruses away? That's product design. So right now, I don't see a major problem, but the future projects which we may get would be very, very different, I think. We've already, I mean, we're currently working 15 hours, 18 hours a day. Again, to fight and create, to solve problem right now. Eventually, we will create products to avoid such problems. But product design is here to stay. And COVID, no COVID, things will go on. Don't worry.
Yeah. And I can add to that as well, that I was worried last month that I thought like I should quit my company and start finding a job fast. Because I got worried as well, that I thought like all clients are postponing and canceling projects. But at the same time, I'm more busy than ever because everyone is asking me, how can we people motivated in these horrible times? So actually what I've been advocating for 20 years, that games are serious matters. Now people are really taking a game and play very serious and asking me a lot about how to deal with the children at home, how to make them motivated to learn better. So yeah, it can be the opposite. If you worry or are afraid of your future as a designer, I think no need to worry.
Yeah. And you just have to rise to occasion. That's about it.
In fact, I've heard some very senior designers say that this is a moment for designers. If you take the pandemic in the country, this is where we have to reinvent and make a difference to the community and try to create design solutions which will help people across the world.
I mean, I know a lot of designers who actually got into making and designing masks. I'm sure, Manisha, you've seen on our alumni this thing. Extremely innovative mask, some of them. So I think something leads to a different direction at times. So I don't think there's need to worry.
Absolutely. There's always a role and a job for a designer.
That's the beauty of profession, is so flexible, I think. I think that's something which I think we are taught to adapt in design school, and UPES does the same. So
yeah.
So there are some questions which are maybe slightly UPS specific. Does UPS offer summer school or student exchange programs during a particular semester? What is the process? How does it work? So yes, we do have student exchange programs in the third year as well as in the fourth year. We give students the opportunity to travel abroad. We are members of the World Design Organization, the WDO. We also have a tie-up with ICEP, which gives us access to 350 or more universities across the world. We have MOUs with over 55 universities in the US and Canada, really across the world. So there are opportunities for our students to travel a lot into these zones. And we have a global immersion program in which students can travel to cities like Berlin and Vancouver, Singapore, etc. So this is a 4-week global immersion program. In terms of what is required, yes, the students with a higher CGPA or a good performance, they get better chances in the international universities and colleges, a good portfolio. So you have to work hard as a student and really build your portfolio and strength. And then the rest of it, we as faculty support you and help you sort of develop the required competencies and skills for that. And then there's another question, where should one go for masters, in India or outside India? I would say you come to UPS in Dehradun. That's a great place to come. But Alice, do you want to say anything about masters internationally?
I don't know enough to really make a lot of sense. I think the masters here in Holland for sure are it's really like finding your topic and dive deep into it. That's how they advocate. For instance, the Design Academy is a very good school and is very much known worldwide for being an experimental school to really find out what the world is about. But the universities are doing a good job with their masters too in Eindhoven, and those are a bit more technical and Delft. For game design, the Utrecht is a very good school and very interesting to take a look at the HKU. But there are many places to go. But I think it is very good to the tips that Satish gave to look at who's teaching there, who's in the staff, which industry is linked to that school, all those things, and what comes out, what are students creating, and what do you feel about that when you look at that, and then make your decision where you want to be.
Absolutely. I think also just choosing the subject of your choice and seeing the best faculty are who can take you forward in your specialization. I do feel it's a good idea to work a little bit between bachelor's and master's, so you get an experience of the industry or of really some practical sort of solving practical user issues before you get on to doing your master's. Now, there are many questions which are specialization oriented. We have a lot of information on our website, and we'll also find a way of answering those questions of what is taught in graphic design, what is taught in fashion. Fashion I've already addressed. But each of the courses, it may take a lot of time to sort of go over, but we'll ensure that you get answers to each of these questions. Also one on furniture design. There's one on architecture. Right now, we don't have an architecture program in UPES, although we have interiors and we have product design. And in terms of the fastest growing discipline of design, at least from where I see in UPS, I find that the maximum demand from an industry perspective is for interaction designers. So their placements happen very, very fast. But the skills that you develop as a product designer or a transportation designer also help in getting a job in interaction design, surprisingly. But that's the current flavor in terms of what the industry seems to be wanting. But it's probably going to, it's most important to really find what you want to do rather than be led by the industry. I remember that I chose to be an animator when there was no animation company willing to sort of hire me when I came out, because there was no animation industry at that time. And I found my way, and in fact, there are lots of opportunities for animators today. So as designers, you should be visionaries. You should be able to listen to your heart and follow the stream that you want to, rather than be led by the industry. And
I would just add, as a designer, I think it's important to have a slight bone of the differentiation. I think you have to be a rebel to a certain extent and question the prior art, and not just follow a path which is normally taken. I think that's important as a designer.
Yeah, but absolutely. I do know that is what older people say. And it's not easy for a student to hear that message.
No, I remember as a student, somebody had said that to us.
Yeah.
So it's important that somehow remained in our mind even today.
Yeah, but it is indeed very good to find what you want to do, but it's not easy when you're young to face that journey ahead. But a little bit of trust in your future. As I said, for me, everything was coincidental, and I feel I'm very lucky. But also, a lot of people tell me that it's not luck. I made a lot of things happen by making choices. So, and I think that's also true. But I was never sure of if it was the right choice or not.
See, there's never a free meal. Working hard is important.
Absolutely.
So I mean, in any profession, design is even more important.
Yeah.
That goes without saying. That goes without saying. There are many questions related to placement, but I'll just connected with a lot of companies because they the connect helps us in terms of getting internships as well as placement, as well as getting sort of senior professionals to come and do master classes for our students. And placements wise, at School of Design, we've had 100% placements for our students this year as well as last year. And we have a track record of placing all our students in very successful and good companies. It's a mix of companies. Some of them are the large corporates like TCS or Infosys and others. Then some of these very successful design companies, the Design Directions, as Satish is the founder of that and one of our alumni with him. So many of our design students actually prefer to join a design company where they get mentorship with a senior designer. And there are other companies like Desmania Design, Fractalink, and others where they get placed. And some of them become entrepreneurs. Few of them actually choose to follow their own path and become entrepreneurs. And we provide them with mentorship and also incubation and support within UPS. Also, there is funding available for students who want to be entrepreneurs.
Yeah, that's a very different thing which UPS does. I think that's a brilliant thing.
Right.
I think no other school is doing that.
And there's one question. Yeah.
That reminds me of what when we were at campus, we also and I thought it was so interesting that they were so close together that I was looking forward to see the collaboration of teams of students from design to go into the School of Law and then find solutions there or play games in their courtroom, which is really there. But the other faculty, it was faculties at the university in Deatun that I got very excited by the idea of also law students following the minor, maybe it would be so
yeah,
interesting.
and law is an equal important component for design because we have to know whether infringing on somebody's intellectual property. I think law is, and having it on the same campus makes a world of a difference. There's no single university which has law, engineering, and design together. I think UPS has that huge plus point. Designing and spending 2 years and realize, oh my God, we are stepping on somebody's IP.
Yeah,
that should
very important topic as well. Like, is it ethical to design something that people don't want, don't need, and even now with the corona, we have so many new topics to think about. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's and integrity is another very important point. Of course, being true to your user and true to the design problems that are really needed to be solved, and being honest, because being an honest designer is very important. We also want to build good citizens, good people at the end of it. I know that that come to us are originally also very, very good, and we try to support them in that journey. Because apart from being good at design, you also have to have a vision that is powerful and honest and what you really want to make a country. So there's a question that Satish, you might be able to answer better. What is the future of
mobility? Let's call it a mobility. I think that mobility, the whole concept is going to change. Everything is moving to electric or hybrid. So things are, so maybe the IC engine and diesels are going to get phased. So the number of components in automotive would reduce. The products would be more lighter, smaller maybe. So things are going to change. So there will be work for automobile design in a very different way. But yes, it's there to stay. It's mobility. It could be mass transport, but it's still mobility.
Right. And a lot of our students are going into domains where they're doing car infotainment systems or merging technology with transportation design. And they're working for entrepreneurs and startups. Plus, some of our students go to some of the very good companies like Tata Elxsi, etc., where the transportation designers, product designers, and interaction designers all work together on products and new ideas. Then another question on product design: Do product designers always work with engineers? Does product design consist of more technical work, Satish?
Depend on the kind of product you're doing. Let's say if I'm designing a bottle opener, let's just take an example. It's more a fashion accessory kind of product. I may not interact too much with engine, but I will interact with people who are going to manufacture it. So what kind of finishes are you looking at? What material? Is it going to be cast aluminum? Is it going to be pressure die cast aluminum? A whole lot of science will come in, or engineering will come in during manufacturing stage. And as product designers, you should also have the ability to know whether your design can be produced and with simplicity and ease. So if I design a product which is really complex to make, it takes me more energy, more time, then I would call it art. I won't call it design. For us, design means mass production. So that's something very important. But yes, you will have to interact with engineers or people in the production for sure.
And a related question, Satish, for you: Which companies hire product designers? What kind of companies?
Most of the companies now, you name any company in India, they would have designers. Be it Godrej, be it Crompton Greaves, be it Havells. It could be that, I mean, Tata's is already using, Bajaj Autos using designers, Kinetic, I mean, Hero Honda's, Maruti Suzuki. You name the company, they have designers. Blue Star has designers. There's not a single company who are not really using designers, or if they don't employ in-house designer, they consult people like us. So in a way, design exposure is happening now in India.
Okay. There's a question related to animation. What sort of skills do I need to apply for the animation course or to be a successful animator? You do also do have to have good observation skills, as well as drawing skills help in animation, because you have to do a lot of sketching, you have to do storyboarding and character design, etc. So drawing helps, but not to say that there are animators who, it's not that all animators can draw well. There are some animators who just know how to tell good stories, and they are clever at what they do. So sometimes they just animate objects. So if you have creativity, the ability to tell good stories, and a good observation skill, yes, you can apply for the animation course. And yeah. How does art intersect with design? Alice, do you want to take that one?
Say that again. How does art?
How does art intersect with design? Are they different?
Yeah.
Are they?
It's actually funny. When I was studying at the Design Academy, we were also doing the application of new students together with teachers and students. We were having the interviews with fresh students. And once, this is an example, but once there was a guy who made such a beautiful work that we told him, like, we really cannot refuse you to come here, but actually we think you would be better in an art school because you're such a specific artist, and we will have to, that will not blossom and flourish well here in the design school, because you will have to apply your skills in art in a sense that might also damage your autonomy. So in that sense, it intersects, intersects. But the guy said he very much that he didn't want to become an autonomous artist. He wants to become a designer. So we said, okay, you do have great skills and you will become a good designer. But I think that the society will miss out on great art. So we wanted to express that clearly to him, that there is a difference in art and design in that sense. But this is just one example to illustrate that. So it combines, but you don't have to be an artist to become a good designer. But there is a very important, how do you say, combination of that. And actually, I'm a very good example of, I'm not good at making beautiful things. I'm very good at deconstructing complex things and build them together. So I need other people to have that aesthetic look, the more artistic look at the design, because that part I'm always a little bit out. So there's a very big spectrum between applying art as part of design or just or the other way around.
And there's a question on what are the kind of companies that employ graphic designers? So maybe I'll take that. Graphic designers can get employed in ad agencies. They can get involved, sort of employed in a corporate communications team within an organization. They can also run their own companies or consultancies. And nowadays, I'm finding that graphic designers are really required across the board. So we have different companies approaching us with a company that is a product design company, but everybody wants to promote themselves on social media. Everybody wants to have that ad or wants to send messages to the employees, which are very visual. So there's always a role for graphic designers. It's really across large, medium, and small size companies. And I think now we are sort of running out of time. It's been a great discussion so far. So I thought that there is one question which I'll sort of end with. It's what makes UPS School of Design the best? So what I feel is, first let me actually turn this over to Ellis and to Satish. What do you see as some of the strengths of UPS School of Design? And then maybe I'll answer from my side.
Satish, you first?
Yeah, okay. It's a great place. It's got energy. I think it's also got energy, part of UPS. It's a very lively place. I think that makes a world of a difference. I mean, you want to go into a nice education institute which has a good energy. I think that's very important and conducive for them. And I would actually urge most students who are here right now on the webinar, go just dash to Dehradun, see the campus for yourself. And seeing is believing at times. It's beautiful. You'll fall in love with it.
Yeah, same here. I'm in love with the place, with the people, with the backdrop of the beautiful mountains, and but also all these institutes. I was planning to be there now in May, but it's cancelled, of course. But I'm looking so much forward to visit all these scientific institutes and all these places and all the museums extra, because there was so much. I'm so curious about the place. I want to find out more, and I think that's the energy you need for a good education. It's a good how to say, ground to learn and be inquisitive. Is that a good word? Having a growing mindset, and that's interesting. And I also still am thinking about the last question about graphic design. Graphic design is also visual design. So actually everything with text and illustrations and everything that is communicated is actually a graphic design. And website interfaces, games have interfaces, which is not done by the artist, not done by the technical department, but with graphic design, they are making things that they are intuitive, and that's overlooked very often. So it doesn't look design, but you don't feel like it's design, but it's not problematic. You know where to push which button, and that's also very important for to acknowledge design as not being present, but it is there behind the scenes. And I think, yeah, design is really a beautiful job. I'm jealous at you all. And I also want to congratulate you all for so many questions. I'm happy to see that there are more than we could answer. I'm also sorry that there are more that we could answer.
I'm just going to add one more thing. I mean, historically, Dehradun is known for aviation. I think that's also very important. And once you go there, you get a sense of security. It's a very safe place, UPS. I think that's something very important as a parent. Also, is I think if I had my kid who wanted design, I would have sent him to UPS.
Thank you so much. And in fact, you've already said everything. And what I feel is, apart from being multidisciplinary and having really wonderful workshops and labs and facilities, as well as faculty from some of the top institutes, the ability to do sort of teaching and learning online as well as in the classroom, a lot of learning by doing and hands-on projects. Apart from all that, I think very importantly, our faculty and student connect is very important, is very, very good. Students can really walk up to faculty with any sort of problem that they have, and we do provide mentorship and guidance to them and support them in different ways. We guide them in terms of academics as well as what sort of careers they choose, as well as sometimes when they're away from home, they do need a little bit more support, and we make sure that we provide that. And so that I think that connect is pretty magical in UPS as well as UPS School of Design. So that's, I think.
I add one more point, which
yes.
I think as a student, it's very important. I think UPS also has a lot of good sports facilities, which I don't think any design institute has in India. I think that's something very important, to have good sports facilities, and that keeps students active.
Actually, you've touched on a very important point, which we missed out all through the discussion.
Yeah, I just realized it.
So sports is, yes, we have enough facilities for the students to play badminton and football and basketball and others.
Okay.
And not only sports, but to explore their other passions and hobbies. We have students who love music. So there are student chapters and clubs, and they can sort of pursue their passion for music and singing, etc. We have something called Wow Wednesday. So every Wednesday, students get together and there are cultural events. There's dance, there's drama. We have a sketching club. Right now, we have a quarantine designers Instagram group where all our sketching club puts up their work. And so our students are involved in a lot of extracurricular activities. We respect all festivals, and students celebrate Onam and Ganpati and everything. So those who are from Maharashtra shouldn't feel that they're very far away from home. In Dehradun, we celebrate all the festivals across the country, and which are important to all religions. So I guess that's it from our side. Satish, Alice, any last words from your side?
I think it's a good place, so just go and explore it.
Great. So
yeah, please become a designer and change our world.
Yes.
So you said it absolutely.
It's a great profession. It's a very noble profession. Besides medicine, I think designers have a very important role to play.
Yeah, the world of more designers than it has. So you'll always be busy. You'll always have a profession. So thank you so much. You've been an excellent audience, and you've been sending excellent questions. I'm so sorry. I think we've been able to answer about maybe 1/3 of them. There's still a lot more questions, but we're running out of time. We'll ensure that answers to all your questions come through to you. And we are always available, and our teams at UPS, our enrollment teams are also available to answer any further questions that you have. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All the best.
All the best.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.